I wake up and count my blessings. No more worries, no more stressing. With every loss there comes a lesson. Lord, all I'm asking is protection. I wake up and count my blessings.
Greetings, massive. Translation, hello everyone, and welcome to Conversations with me, a random nobody. With Thanksgiving being right around the corner, I wanted to do an episode that focused not only on being grateful and showing gratitude, but overall thankfulness. And I wanted to talk about that because oftentimes I find myself forgetting to be thankful for the things that I already have in life. I see the things that other people have and I want that instead. So today I just wanted to start reminding myself of everyone and everything that I'm thankful for. And I also wanted you to start thinking about the same thing because I'm going to have a little challenge at the end of this episode that I want you to participate in. Now, I wanted to start this episode off with showing some gratitude to some of the new people that I've come into contact with since starting my podcast. Before I started my podcast, I was a big podcast listener, and I'd always listen to The Run Duo, Serial, Crime Junkie, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Secrets of the Churched, Undisclosed, free Adnan, by the way, and my most favorite, Bird Note. Yes, I listen to a podcast that talks about birds. Well, anyway, I wanted to share with you some of the new podcasts that I've been listening to since starting my own journey. And I'm going to start, and this is in no particular order. So if you're first, don't feel special. And if you're last, don't feel unspecial. Is unspecial a word? Anyway, I'm going to actually start off with Richie. And Richie hosts a podcast called Various Logs from the Past. And every time I say the name of his podcast, it sounds so weird to me because Richie is actually in the UK. So, of course, when he says the name of his podcast, it's in a British accent, which sounds so much better than mine. Anyway, Richie's podcast is about sharing personal stories in order to help others grow. And I like his podcast because he not only talks about his own experiences, but he opens up his show to allow other people to come in and share their experiences as well. And my favorite episode from this podcast is For Your Eyes Only. And that's the number 4 as in 4 eyes. But yeah, it's very interesting. So I hope you will check it out. Next is The Unfiltered by Jade. Jade's podcast is amazing. Jade has an amazing energy about her. Her laugh is impeccable, and her guests always have the best energy. Every time I listen to that podcast, I feel like I'm a part of the conversation, like I'm in the room with them laughing and joking and participating in dialogue. It's such a good vibe when I listen to that podcast. So my favorite episode from that podcast is called Oral Sex and the Sanctified Mouth. Yeah, you want to check that out. The Secret Life of Moms is another podcast that I've come across. I forget how, but I absolutely love Niche and Coco. I love that they have different perspectives on things and it's not just two people agreeing about everything. My favorite episode from them is the Love, Lust, and Lies episode. That one talked about everything relationship-wise from a woman's perspective and also from a man's perspective. So it was very, very interesting. Next is Smart Rebellion. Smart Rebellion is hosted by an amazing woman and her voice is so soothing. She drops these beautiful gems and every time I finish an episode of her podcast, I leave feeling a little bit more empowered than before I hit the play button. So you guys have to check out Smart Rebellion. My favorite episode on that podcast would be Matters of the Heart Part 6, and it's called Control Alt Delete. You definitely want to check that out. Now, the Queen Beauty podcast focuses on mental health and overall well-being. I can truly appreciate it because these two ladies drop amazing information, and not only information to say, oh yeah, that was good, but something that you can actually apply to your everyday life. My favorite episode from their podcast is, Are You Afraid of Adulting? That was a really good episode, guys. You have to check it out. And I'm going to have a link in the show notes with all of the podcasts that I mentioned. So when you're ready to check them out, it'll be easy for you to access. Sambaza is another podcast that I've come across that I've really learned to love. This podcast deals with issues that's happening in the world, but it gives you the point of view from people that are living in different parts of the world. Everyone's experiencing COVID-19, right? If I'm living in America, perspective I'm getting. On Sambaza, they talk to people that live in different parts of the world so that we can understand how they're dealing with it as well. So I definitely recommend you guys check that podcast out. My favorite episode was the episode that dealt with voting in America and how the parties actually originated. That was I think it was like a 3-part series on the podcast, but it's worth listening to for sure. Now, these 2 podcasts that I'm about to mention, guys, these are for adult ears only. First one is Talks from the Valley. These 2 young ladies have amazing conversation about everything under the sun. And when I say you need to have your headphones in and the children very far away, that's what I mean. Their podcast sets people straight. If you have a problem with them, you can call them up. You can discuss it on their podcast. I mean, they keep it 1,000,000% real. My favorite episode was the episode entitled Bed Bugs and Hugs. And they talked about people selling, dinners out of their basement. So they called it like, you're selling basement platters. So that was really funny, guys. So please check their podcast out. Now, this podcast that I'm about to mention, you need to make sure you have your headphones plugged in doubly. Like, you don't want to slip. You don't want to miss it, guys. These are for adult ears only. Children do not need to be around with this one at all. And I mean, some of you guys might not like it even. I'm just recommending it, guys, because I absolutely love it. All right. It's called the Black Widow Podcast. It's not, I wouldn't even recommend it for people under the age of 18. Okay. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to let you know the name of it. Check it out and let me know what you think about it. All right. Now, last but not least, I saved the best for last, even though I said it wasn't in any order. But the Everybody is a Celebrity podcast hosted by Mr. Wayne Cole. Wayne is amazing. He's just starting out with podcasting, but he's a pretty big dog in a lot of other arenas. He likes to act like, he's a nobody, but he's really a superstar. And he opens up his podcast to shine the light on everyday people that get overlooked. But if we think about it, if we didn't have those people in our lives, where would we be? Like the firefighter or a janitor. Without them, how could we function? So I love Wayne and his podcast because it gives back to the people. And I'm saying that because I was actually a recipient of one of Wayne's giveaways. I actually left the first review of his podcast and I won a prize for that. So I truly appreciate Wayne and his podcast, and I know it's going to take off. So please make sure you check out all of these podcasts. Like I said, I'm going to drop their information in my show notes and, follow them on Instagram, find their page on Facebook, subscribe to their podcast. And, they didn't ask me to do this. I just wanted to do it to show appreciation and gratitude. It's so important for us to remember that we should be grateful for who we are, where we are, and what we are. We see a lot on TV and social media, and we often want those things. not knowing what the person that has those things actually had to go through. Like, I see a lot of people say relationship goals or family goals. Do you realize what happens in that relationship behind closed doors? Or do you realize what that family has to go through to portray the image that you see? Oftentimes, we don't think about that. We see the results, and that's what we go after. I know everybody knows what FOMO is, fear of missing out. We think that we're missing out on something, and we're really not. We're where we're supposed to be in life, and we have to learn how to appreciate that. I'm grateful for everything that I have, and when I see people that have more, I don't get jealous. I'm literally happy for them because they put in the work to get where they are. Instead of being jealous about people or jealous of people, we have to understand that we can have exactly what they have if we do exactly what they do. But when we find out what we have to do to get what they have, we don't even have that same drive. And I'm talking from personal experience because I follow someone on social media and I see the fruits of their labor and I'm totally blown away. And I can easily say, oh my God, I want that. I want to travel like that. I want to, visit all these different places. But I only see and want the fruits, not the labor. And it's important that when we look at things, we realize that it didn't just drop out the sky for people. Like the person that I said I follow on social media, I see this person all over the world in the most immaculate locations that I didn't even know existed. And I actually did reach out to that person and I said, you know what? How is this possible? You're from where I'm from. What did you do? How did you get there? And they told me. And I was like, oh, okay. And even though they told me how they got there, I didn't want to put in that work. So for me to look at that page and to see all of these amazing photos, even though I knew what I had to do to get it, I wasn't enticed because it was so much work. So we can see the results, but we don't see the labor that goes on behind the scenes. We don't see the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sleepless nights. I don't see that. So because I don't see that, I didn't know that's how you got it. And I guarantee that if we could see what people don't show on Instagram or Facebook, we would understand that we're all in the same boat. And I was actually telling some of my friends about how I feel about my appearance. And, to many, I look nice, but to myself, I still see fat Trisha. I'm coming from my highest weight was 212 pounds. So I was able to lose that weight and start on a healthy life journey. So when I look in the mirror, what I see is the aftermath of my weight loss. You guys get to see me with clothes on and I'm standing at these, all the right angles, sucking in my stomach. But when I take the clothes off, there's so much that I would change if I could. And I say that to say, because a lot of times friends, family members, or people in general ask me, Trisha, what did you do to lose the weight? How are you able to maintain and how do you do it? And I tell them and they don't want it. They don't want to do that. Just like when I asked that person, how did you get this stuff? How are you able to do this? When they told me, it's like, oh, not right now. So it's like, it depends on how bad you want something will determine how far you're willing to go to get it. So if people can look at me and say, oh, Trisha looks amazing, I want to look like her. And I'm not trying to, gas myself up at all. But people tell me these things and I'm thinking, guys, no, I'm not really all that. I'm still fat, right? But if you do want to accomplish something and I tell you how I did it, I run almost 6 days a week. And I'm not saying you have to do exactly what I did, but I just want to share what I do because it's not easy. I can't just, eat anything that I want and expect me to keep the weight off. I'm running 6 days a week. I used to be in the gym at least 5 to 6 days a week. I used to participate in juice fast, smoothies, all of that stuff. I turned down amazing foods, man, because I just can't eat everything. And, most important now that I've just started doing is intermittent fasting. So I'm eating within a certain time frame, and I won't say I'm depriving myself, but I'm sacrificing that because I know what I want to achieve. So instead of looking at the cute pictures on Facebook and Instagram, sometimes you have to remember that people are putting in work behind the scenes, and that's not what they're going to show us. They're going to show us the outcome, the results. But we have to use the wisdom that we have in our heads to say, that didn't just happen by the snap of a finger. That person put in work. That person sacrificed. So if I'm looking at their fruits, I have to tell myself, Trisha, you have to put in the work. If you want abs, you have to put in the work. If you want this and you want that, it's not going to fall out of the sky. You have to decide that I want it bad enough. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. Because when we don't, we find ourselves wallowing in self-pity, wishing we had more, not being grateful and thankful for the things that we have. And it's all because we don't want to put the work in. We see other people achieving things in life and we look at them and say, why not me? But the question is, are you willing to put that work in? And if you are bound to get the same results. So no matter how amazing someone's outside looks, don't desire that because you don't know the full story. Be thankful for who you are, where you are, and what you are, because there's someone out there that would love to live the life that you lead. So as we enter upon the holiday season, specifically Thanksgiving, since that's coming up next week, I want us to tell the people that are important in our lives why they're important to us. Instead of just sending out that generic Happy Thanksgiving text message, individualize it and tell people why you're thankful for them. And I was talking with 2 friends earlier today, and yeah, you guys are my friends if you're listening. Yeah, if you didn't know that by now. Anyway, and one was saying how instead of putting people in a bulk text message, she separates it because she wants that person or those people to feel like, they matter to her. So I wanted to close out with telling my family and my friends that I'm very thankful for them because they're so supportive. They're understanding of me and my madness. I am so appreciative that I'm able to have amazing people in my life that I can call on at any time, and they're always there to support me. I'm blessed with amazing coworkers. Sometimes I just sit and I reflect on the people that God has put in my life, and I'm just so grateful because everyone serves a purpose to me, and I don't know where I would be without certain people in my life. So this Thanksgiving and this holiday season, I am going to personalize messages instead of just sending the generic one because people need to know that they matter and they need to know now. Like I said, Wayne always says, give people their flowers while they are here. So I hope you guys can appreciate this episode, and I look forward to hearing any feedback that you might have. I want you guys to really enjoy your family this holiday season and just be appreciative. You may not have everything you want. You may not be where you want to be in life, but appreciate where you are, appreciate what you have, and just be thankful. Because if you didn't have it, you'd definitely be lost. So be appreciative and thankful for every little thing. And I am done, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode with me. I'm grateful and I'm thankful, especially for you listeners, my guests that have come onto the podcast, because without you guys, there definitely would not be a me. So I am so thankful that you take the time out to listen, share, and participate in this podcast. I truly, truly appreciate it. And as I close out, if you're not already following me on social media, you can hit me up at Random Nobody Podcast on Instagram. I'm Random Nobody 1 on Twitter. If you want to send me an email, send it to randomnobodypodcast@gmail.com. My website at www.conversationswiththerandomnobody.com, and subscribe to my email list, as I'm going to start sending out more emails with, pertinent information about the podcast. All the podcasts that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, you can find their links in the show notes. Please check them out, and especially check out the favorite episodes that I mentioned, and let me know what you think about them. Well, guys, this wraps up another episode of Conversations with me, a Random Nobody, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week, Wednesday. So until next time, walk good. Translation: be safe.
Started from the bottom, look where we end up, on top like Pac. All eyes on us, blessings. No more worries, no more stressing. With every loss there comes a lesson. Lord, all I'm asking is protection. I wake up and count my blessings.